Welcome to the A2 Show with Andrew Cass and Aaron Parkinson, bringing you the trends and topics that affect our lives the most: business, politics, fitness, family, and finance. With over 50 plus years of combined business experience and over $1 billion in revenue generated, your hosts have a unique gift for seeing many steps ahead where others do not. They bring their unfiltered, contrarian views to the show every week to help you win in business and in life.
Welcome back, everybody. We've got a timely one today where we're talking about how to navigate the fourth quarter of an election year from a business, investment, and mindset standpoint. There's a lot that has to happen. I feel like every 4 years, Aaron, we come back to the investment and the political cycle here. They're all intertwined now: investment, business, and politics. And every fourth quarter of an election year, so every 4 years, fourth quarter, 4 and 4, every 4 years, fourth quarter, there's a lot of adjustments that have to happen, and there's a lot of things that we see from an investment, an economic, from an investment, a business, and a personal mindset standpoint. So we're going to talk about a lot of the things we've seen. There's been some meltdowns in certain industries. There are some investment moves that are happening at a very big level. And then how do you stay sane during all of it and keep yourself in a position to be able to stay optimistic, energetic, productive, efficient, right? It's hard to do because there's really a lot of distraction happening right now. So we're going to unpack three big areas today as we head into the fourth quarter. You might be watching this, who knows, years from now. Don't think you need to be in a fourth quarter to watch this, although it helps. Really, I think what you're going to take away is some really important things when it comes to the business cycle, the investment cycle, and obviously the mindset to deal with both.
Yeah, let's be honest. The fourth quarter of an election year in the United States is one colossal shit show.
I feel like the word is chaotic.
It is
chaotic.
So bizarre.
And it always will be, I think.
And it happens every time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably more so now than ever over the last maybe decade or so, because social media has allowed everything to be broadcasted in real time. So I think we've just got such immediate information and news now that it amplifies everything.
Yeah, I think it does. And I think every election cycle, because the events are so relevant to your life at the time, everybody thinks that this election cycle is the most important. This election cycle is the most dramatic. The reality is that they're all dramatic every single time.
Yeah.
Right?
This is the most important one ever. This is our last chance, right? You get that on both sides, really.
The whole world's going to collapse if you don't vote for our guy or our girl.
There's always extremes on both ends. Although without going into it in this episode, there are some things that are happening right now in this cycle that we've never seen in American history. We've done full episodes on it.
Yeah, we have. And you can actually say that about every election cycle, that there was very unique things that were happening in each one. But
yeah, there's always a uniqueness for sure.
Going into the fourth quarter, here's what everybody just has to understand. We're all in the same boat. And I've been speaking to some different business owners, specifically agencies over the last week. You and I were talking about it. And these agency owners were saying, we're getting crushed this year. Absolutely desperate. We don't know if it's
this year. They're
saying this year.
Okay.
And they're saying, we don't know if it's the economy. We don't know if it's the election. We don't know if it's the inflation. The answer is it's all of them. But when you go into the fourth quarter of an election year, everybody does the same thing every time. Everybody sits on their wallet and they say, I'm not making any big decisions until I know what the future of this country looks like. And, we've started to see some positive things, Andrew. For example, stock market's been fairly good over the last month.
Stock market's been solid. It tends to always be. There's just so much money worldwide coming into it. It's
market's been more consistent. We've started to see some cuts in interest rates for the first time in a long time. Those are very positive from an investment standpoint, from an economic standpoint. There are some little rays of light starting to peek through, but those things don't actually show anything of true value or recognizable difference in the economy for typically like 6 months to a year.
Yeah, there's always a delay effect.
There's always a delay effect. And when you combine the typical normal delay of the effect with the fourth quarter of an election cycle, it's literally like everything goes into quicksand.
It's like a vacuum, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's really, and I think there's a level of anxiousness too, right? We talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah,
people are anxious to have clarity. They're anxious to know who's going to be the president because that affects a lot of policies and who's going to have the Senate and the House. And then what does that mean to the stock market? What does it mean to the real estate market, right? What I'm following a lot right now, Aaron, is I'm a big investor in gold, silver, and Bitcoin. I wouldn't say big, but I like to have exposure to all three. And I like to really know what's going on in all three. So I follow a lot of advisors who are specialists in those three areas, precious metals and Bitcoin. And same thing, right? You're seeing, first of all, gold's at an all-time high. The spot price of gold per ounce is highest it's ever been. Silver is not quite there, but it's had a really good run lately. And Bitcoin is on the verge of its all-time high of 75,000. I think last I checked, it's at 63,000. So it's been in this almost waiting phase, to your point, right? It's a waiting phase, and there's some big institutional money now in the form of mutual funds and ETFs that are sitting on the sidelines for the reasons you mentioned, ready to go in cryptocurrency, things like Bitcoin. And by the way, the more unstable the dollar becomes, the more we see war, inflation, open borders, chaos, the more gold, silver, and crypto, things like Bitcoin, will go up in value. And it doesn't look like any of those things are going to end anytime soon. Even if there's another president that comes in, even if the Trump administration gets in and they're committed to wanting to end wars and end conflicts, he did it already in the previous administration, close the border, have some sort of semblance of, no chaos and some law and order and just some America first stuff. Even if that happens, like you said, there isn't going to be this immediate benefit, right? It's going to take a long time. I mean, the damage that was done in the last 4 years, it could take 2 years to undo that. I mean, it's nuts what's going on, at least in America. So it won't be immediate, right? To your point. Yep. So what do you do in the meantime, right?
Well, and that's really the focal point of the episode today, right? Is you've got your mindset, you've got your business, you've got your finances,
And we should say your business or your career. We have sales professionals on here that maybe don't own a business. So when we say business, it's your business of making money, right? So whether you're in a career or a business, that's a category. Investment, finance, financial planning is a category. And then the mindset to be able to navigate and deal with both. That'll be the big topics of today.
Yeah. And I think from a business standpoint, what I'm projecting is that we won't see a lot of positivity or uptick in sales. We'll see a continued stagnation until January.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, because then there's certification,
right?
Which I have a problem with right now, which I talked about in the last episode. Is I don't think that'll go smooth on either side, by the way. So that's another level of waiting in potential social unrest and turmoil that just delays this inevitable, Aaron. This whole thing we're talking about today, I think we'd like nothing more than to see it not get any more delayed. And people think that when there's an election in November, it's boom, done, November 5th, done in one day. But as I mentioned in the last episode, that's the preliminary winner. But then there's 2 more months before the actual certification. And both sides are already talking about how they are not going to be quick to certify the other. So that's not good, right? And that could, do we want to be having this conversation mid-January, February? I hope to God not, Aaron, because then things this stagnation period that you just talked about gets delayed even more.
And that's where it aligns with my thought process that nothing very dramatic from a positive standpoint is going to happen till January. So
exactly.
Then you have to ask yourself, okay, how do I navigate this current situation?
And it's the beginning of the fourth quarter at the time we're doing this. So don't think it's going to be one and done November 5. It's the fourth quarter. How do you plan to navigate the fourth quarter of any year, but specifically an election year? Here we go.
And so let's just start with some basic industries. If we talk about, let's say, e-commerce as an example, or we talk about retail, we know Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas shopping, that in many cases is 70% of the revenue of those businesses in a year. So in a year which hasn't been amazing and in a stagnation period, what is going to have to happen you might not have the same boom of profitability that you've always had. You may have to look at it like, my goal is just to stay afloat this year. I might have to be more aggressive in my promotions, in my discounts, in my bundles, because cash may be more important than profitability, just to help you float through to that January timeframe. But one of the things that I always say to our clients is, those who choose not to market when times are tough are choosing to be irrelevant when times are good.
Yeah, well said.
And it's hard, because it's that feeling of like, well, when times are difficult, I don't want to put money out without seeing that immediate return.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that if you get all the way to the first quarter and you put your guard up and you clamp down on your marketing expenses, then you have to turn the machine back on in January. And people think you can just turn the machine back on and all of a sudden money falls from the sky. It doesn't work that way. We know that the average person has to see something 7 to 10 times before they're willing to make a purchase. It's why companies like Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem start their marketing in mid-November. They actually start it right before Thanksgiving. And every time the commercials start, people think, why would a weight loss company be marketing right before Thanksgiving, the time when people want to be literally the fattest?
It's to this point, it's like, oh, well, I'll wait to start my program after the holidays. That's the mindset of most.
Right. And 99% of people who, start thinking about weight loss, think about it in the new year. Mm-hmm. So the logic would state, I'm going to start my campaigns maybe a week before the New Year's or maybe on the New Year's, and I'm going to capitalize when people are thinking about it. But the reality is, you got to embed your marketing in the subconscious of your buyers for a very long time. And so if you choose to pull back the reins on all of your marketing because you're saying to yourself, well, it's a stagnation period, I don't know what's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you're not going to be viewed as the category king in January when the doors open up. You're going to be playing chase, not lead. And it's a very contrarian way to think about your business, but this too shall pass. That always has to be your mentality. Look at the stock market for the last 50 years. Look at the amount of money that's been spent on different industries for the last 50 years. It is a perpetual tick upwards. So if you are playing this scared money game, all you're going to do is delay that pain further into the future by playing defense versus offense.
Yeah, well said. I agree. I think cash flow is king in both of these categories we're going to talk about. I think, and we're seeing this now. I saw Boeing lay off something like 18,000 people just this week, Aaron.
Yep.
I would get lean as a company. My focus with my company, I'm sure, actually you and I talk about this all the time. We're in the same mindset of we are putting our blinders on we never stop marketing. So to that topic, we don't, you shouldn't, but I would figure out how to get lean. It's time to lay people off. You don't need people who are not A players. There's no more room for B players, right? If you're not up to par, believe me, there's somebody somewhere at probably a discount. And now with artificial intelligence, there's no room for error. So if you're working for someone else, you're already at great risk. If you work for yourself and you have team members and people working for you, they need to bring their A game, because artificial intelligence can do about 50% of the work I found so far. And if you have a key player who can operate artificial intelligence, that replaces 10 people, because that's really the X factor I'm finding right now. And is if I have a key tech guy or tech gal in my company, and they're already efficient and reliable, and they're picking up new skills, and they can operate artificial intelligence, they compound themselves. And that's how I would be thinking about this: is get rid of any B players. It's only A players at this time.
Yep.
Leverage artificial intelligence, tech, and tools as much as you can, SaaS and AI, and figure out how to go back into the fight so that you can keep your marketing on, your branding on, your promotion on with a leaner, tighter team. Would be my number one business owner advice. And again, even if you're an independent contractor and you have a team, maybe you work for an insurance company, you don't own the company, but you're a sales professional, you are in business for yourself. You're a sales professional with a sales assistant team, let's say. Same thing. Is everybody surrounding you an A player? It's pissing me off right now, Aaron. And you and I talked about it, I think, off camera. We should probably bring some of those on camera, but off camera, we get irate about this stuff. We have, right now, we are not dealing with anybody who's taken the role for granted, and anybody who isn't showing up every day with their A game, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go because they know they're expendable, and they need to know they're expendable. And right now I'm having a lot of tough conversations with people on my team. I'm like, I'm only giving this another couple weeks, or I'm going to be phasing out your role. I'm not going to just eliminate it, but I'm absolutely giving people the heads up. What do they call it in the real world? You and I have never had jobs. What do they call it? You get a pink slip or something, or what's the old school? You get a notice that your position is going to be terminated on such and such a date, and you have X amount of time to figure out what you're going to do. And there's probably a severance package. Our stuff isn't that formal when we own companies, right? This is more of a public company kind of a thing where you're
going to get furloughed.
Yeah. Is that what it is? There's all kinds of different terms. We've never had a job. We've never had real jobs. So we don't really know. We've always had businesses and ventures, and we've been sales professionals. So we really don't know what that formality is, but you get the point.
Yeah. And I think that if you look at those points that you just sort of discussed, number one is there's always a benefit to times like this. One of the benefits is if you take a step back and you look at your business down to every dollar, to every person, to every expense, times like this can actually make you more aware of things that you weren't paying attention to.
Yeah, these are big aha moments.
They are big aha moments. And what's great about that is that if you can become more efficient in all of these different areas right now to protect that cash flow or to clear up more cash flow, for example, to keep your marketing going and to even though you know that marketing is not going to pay off at the level that it normally does right now, you're just staying in the game for when, January comes around and that switch happens. Then when there's another bull run, in your business, you actually end up being way more profitable in that next bull run because this moment in time forced you to actually look at the efficiencies, the inefficiencies, who's an A player, who's not an A player, and make your business stronger so that when that rush comes, you're in a significantly different position.
Yeah, because you got leaner and you became hyper aware of what was going on in leaner times.
Absolutely.
Right. I'll give you a funny example, Aaron. I had a fraud issue on one of my bank accounts, my core operating bank account a few weeks back. So I had to, as soon as I called about it, they said, sorry, policies, we've got to shut the account down and issue you a new account number. You have to go into a branch. I'm like, oh, me and my big mouth, right? Because you know what that's like. Your operating bank account, how many vendors in subscriptions and payments do you think are attached to a normal operating account in any given company, right? 20, 30, 50, 100, whatever, right? Yeah. So my mind goes to, wow, I'm going to have to basically have my team and all the things that come through every month are going to say payment decline because, bad card on file, whatever. But then I went, wait a minute, let me go to the bank and open up the new account. I have to do it anyways. But what a great opportunity to do something I've been meaning to do already for a month, which is literally have every single expense come into my inbox and say, this charge is denied. The card on file is no good. Great. Now I know what it is. I can decide all over again if I want to renew it. And then I can determine yes or no, move it to the side. I'm creating a spreadsheet and I can figure out what is all the stupid stuff I'm spending on that I don't need to. And also, Aaron, to the point earlier, who are the people that I don't need right now that I'm also aware of that are not A players, to my point earlier. So now I'm doing this hyper audit but not by design or by choice, but by default because I had to, because I have a new bank account. And I'm like pissed the whole week as I'm doing it. And then I'm like, okay, the second weekend, I'm like, wow, I'm now really seeing every week a handful, a half a dozen charges coming in. And I'm realizing that I'm pretty much keeping about a third of it. I should say half of it, really, realistically. And going, wow, what a great way to lean. So I'm asking my team, do we need that? We've been paying for this for a long time. Do we need that if we can consolidate and do this, right? So I'm not saying go out and open up a new bank account, although sometimes that forced, that forced event helps because you'll say you'll do it, but then you won't get to it. But if you shut your bank account down and go open a new one and you're forced to get the new credit card, debit card that's attached to the operating account, and you're forced to go get lean like that, then you have to do it and you can't skimp on it. So I'm almost glad it's a blessing in disguise that it happened. And here we go, right? Doing a full top-down audit as we go into October.
It's interesting that you bring this topic up because we had some fraud on one of our business credit cards a couple of weeks ago, and the bank did the same thing. They said, we got to shut the card down.
Yeah,
and
it's just policy.
My operations manager was freaking out. She's like, oh, we've got all of these subscriptions, and we've got to do
this
right. And do that.
That was my concern.
And I said, just leave them for right now.
You'll get an alert. They'll let you know.
Get an alert.
They'll let you know 10 times. Believe me, they're coming for your money.
Oh, yeah. And I had multiple alerts come up, and I did the same thing. I looked at them and said,
nice.
Do I really need that?
What are we doing, guys?
Do I really need that? And probably about a half of them, it was just lazy. People use it sometimes, but not really.
Exactly.
And so I was like, I'm not going to. And what's funny is there was one that I was unsure about that my team said they use all the time. And I waited to see if anybody would reach out. And it took 2 weeks. And one person reached out and said, hey, this thing isn't working. And I went, So this very expensive tool, I only had one person in 2 weeks reach out and say, Kenny, not worth it.
Absolutely. So, good move.
I'm done. And it's interesting because one of my old partners that you actually know, he put it on his calendar on the 1st of every year to cancel all of his credit cards.
Oh, he did the cancellation by choice.
Cancellation by choice.
I like it. Not by
default. And I remember when he told me about it, I said, why do you do that? And he said, because there's so many little charges.
I love that idea, man. I'm going to do it the beginning of the fourth quarter of here we are, right?
Just cancel it.
Oh,
and if it's a 911, you'll swap it out. No big deal.
And not to mention, Aaron, anybody who's charging you, believe me, they're coming 7 to 10 times to get their money. They're not going to just, sorry, I reached out once, I canceled your account. No, they want your money in your business. Now, there isn't going to be any 911 cancellations, I promise you.
Now, here's what's interesting. When I canceled this last card with the credit card company, I can't remember the term they used. They said, do you want us to put in like the pro recharge system, et cetera? I said, what's the pro recharge system? And they said, oh, well, we will automatically allow any previous charges.
MX does that. I like that,
and
actually.
we'll notify the vendor, and then the vendor can just one-click swap over to your new card. I said, oh, absolutely
That's pretty cool. Amex Platinum and Black does that for sure. They'll give you a new account number, but they'll let you ride out any subscriptions if they verify them. It's like a personal verification thing.
I said, absolutely not.
You said no, right?
Let them all reach out to me because I want to decide.
I do not want any of your help.
No help.
Do not help me in any way, shape, or form. I'm my own worst enemy as well.
No, and here's another example of getting lean. You know, you and I
getting
lean.
Let's get back to getting lean here.
We
talking physical or are we talking financial here?
I'm always lean, bro. Not as lean as you, but I'm always
you
lean.
Say always, man. You just got in the best shape of your life recently, always. You gave a story on this podcast about 3 episodes ago about how you looked at pictures of yourself years back and you're like, man, did I really get that chubby? And now you look good.
Yeah, I was skinny fat back then.
Ooh, that's right.
So, you know, you and I, when we first met, we were actually in the direct selling network marketing industry when we were really young.
Yeah,
and
when we were really young. Did you have to say that?
Well, we were very young.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's probably, why we were in that industry. And
by the way, what year was that? I want to say it was about 2007-ish, 6-ish.
2004 for me.
No, it wasn't. You want to know why? Because I know when I got into the direct selling affiliate marketing space after I left the financial space and I met Dillard, which got me down the path, and that was 2005, which means you and I met at an event in 2006. It was a year later.
Yeah, I'm saying I got started in 2004.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, but you and I met, I feel like 2006, we met a couple potentially years later. 7.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that 2 of the most significant companies in that space over the last 6 months have completely changed their entire business model.
Yeah.
Historically, they have been a network marketing, multi-level marketing model. And Rodan and Fields and Beachbody, 2 of the biggest, just said, you know what? This is not serving us. This is too much of a bloated expense. This is whatever their reasons were. Maybe this is in an industry that's become jaded or out of touch or whatever the case may be. We're going to pivot from a multi-level marketing payout structure to a single level affiliate program. There's no more building of teams. There's no more overrides. There's
it's true direct sales at that point.
True direct sales. And there was a lot of very upset people in the network marketing industry.
I remember you and I talked, we finished the last episode with this Beachbody thing, which is really an important topic here. There's a lot of lessons that will stem from this.
And listen, I understand the people that spent weeks, months, years building downlines in those industries being upset. I totally get it.
Yep.
But at the same time, you have to remove your emotion, your ego from it and ask yourself, why would a company do this? If it's good for the company from a profitability standpoint, the company will continue to do it. And if anything, they will double down on it. When companies make big wholesale changes, it's because it's not serving their growth goals, their profit goals, their bottom line goals. They're making a shift because it's not serving them any longer. And it really made me feel like this is, I felt like that industry has been shrinking considerably, at least in the United States,
For
over
sure,
the
it's
last
been
decade.
consolidating big time in the last 10 years.
But those are two huge warning shots to that industry. Now, does that mean,
Aaron, there's one other component you didn't mention. Yes, they're going to be thinking with profit in business model soundness, but there's a compliance play too that is just as big of a factor, by the way. You used to own a direct selling company in the nutrition space for, I want to say, 5 to 10 years. How many years did you own your company?
Oh, I only owned that one for 2 years.
2 years. Okay, my bad. So a couple of years you were in that space, and boy, oh boy, you probably aged 10 years in 2 years.
Oh, it was terrible.
Because I remember, I watched the evolution of it. I saw your pattern as an owner, and we were in touch a little bit during that time. We weren't doing any business or anything together, but I just remember the chaos. And there's a compliance issue, but there's also a profitability issue. The multi-level component of any direct sales model, it makes sense from a leverage standpoint for the distributor. It makes all the sense in the world on paper. It makes very little sense for the company long term. And then there's compliance issues with recruiting and business opportunity, FTC guidelines, in big claims. You dealt with this because you were in nutrition, where you had to deal with biz op claims and health claims. So you were double whammied. You couldn't even move. You were getting cornered every time I talked to you. That's what you need to think about. So if I'm a business owner and I'm paying out 5 levels, here's what also has to happen from a product economic standpoint is I've got to raise the price of my product potentially so much that I'm not competitive anymore in order to pay out 5 levels versus 1. That's also a problem. And with companies like Amazon and Shopify, in the ability to get all of these products that these companies recommend at least 30 to 50% less with 2 clicks of a mouse on Amazon delivered to my house tomorrow morning, by the way, there's no need for any distributor, for me to have a distributor like I did in the 60s with Amway, where it made a lot of sense for me to have my local distributor who could bring me my soaps and my vitamins every single week. Because it was saving me from going to the grocery store. I was on an auto ship. You got to understand, if you're a sales professional, which is where we came from, that when the business model changes, you better be aware of the cycle and the economics around the company and the business model and the industry, because they can change their mind whenever they want. You don't work for them and they don't work for you. All you're doing is deciding to sign a contract to market their products and services. Awesome. You get paid. Great. You don't have to fulfill. You don't have to build a business. You don't have to build a team. You don't have to do merchant processing. I love the affiliate model. But don't think for a minute that the company owes you something.
Or that you own it.
Or that you own it, right? At the end of the day, you made a decision to be a distributor and not take on the risk of the company, right? So the company is the one that took all the risk with the lawyers, with the business model, with the economics. They probably went out and got a bunch of money as investments or loans, capital, buildings, team, fulfillment, product innovation. I mean, the business owner and the entrepreneur, guys like us, we took all the risk. So at the end of the day, we make the decision that we don't owe anybody anything. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant, but you've got to know your role in a sales environment. And you've got to also know how to pivot pretty quickly to our point of the show here today, because at any given time, you're expendable if you're not an owner. And in the case you mentioned with Beachbody, this was an interesting brand, Aaron, because this was a big like TV direct response brand. Yep. But yet on the backside, they had this multi-level model. And I was always wondering, why would you have the multi-level model if you know how to market? Usually companies go multi-level also because they don't know how to market. And so they say, let's just put 1,000 distributors in the street and let's give them overrides on 4 or 5 levels because we have no idea how to advertise. Right. I've had so many clients, I shouldn't say so many, I've probably had a half a dozen multi-level marketing company owners within Pipeline Pro that we've done private client work for, building sales systems and marketing systems and funnels for this very reason. Because they say we don't want to have to rely on distributors in the compliance of that to make our sales. So we need to know how to actually get on Facebook, get on TV, get on radio, get on Google, and advertise and acquire our own customers. And I drill that into these owners' heads all the time. I say, listen, you've got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. As a company owner, you have to be able to get your own customers, and then the affiliates, the distributors, the consultants, whatever you call them, them getting you clients and customers and more business builders is a luxury. You shouldn't be relying on that. That's more of a bonus for you. You've got to be able to drive your own sales, because if that side of the business gets shut down or they decide it isn't the right model economically or compliance wise, you still know how to drive customers. And that's really the key lesson here for both the business owner of an MLM company as well as the distributors who think that because they produce, they're owed the world. And not really, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to protect the company, not you.
Absolutely. And so you can see in that industry this year, some pretty big names have said, you know what, this model is no longer efficient and profitable at the way that we want it to be. We're making changes. They're making
Aaron,
changes.
I still think for those two you named, those are big names and those are well-respected names. I think that it's compliance as much as it's money.
Well, in that particular industry, that's a huge piece. I mean,
it is a huge piece.
In the United States, the government, the FTC, hates network marketing companies.
They do. They're always out to get it.
With a passion. And unfortunately for the network marketing companies, you can have the best training and you can have the best practices in place, but unfortunately, you're never standing there when someone's pitching your product. You can't be everywhere with everybody.
That's true.
And I remember having to go out to Chicago to calm a group of people down because one of our distributors went out and sold product packs and told the people that were in that room that if they bought a product pack, they each got 1% ownership in the company. And this is
the boots on the ground stuff you can't monitor.
You laugh, and I laugh. I went in and said, "And you people believe this? Like, what?
You believe your own shit?
Like, you believe that if you spent $1,500, you got 1% of a company?
Yeah.
Like, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
But I had to go in and put that fire out because you can't control the word of mouth marketing and what is said. And as a result of that, some really crazy stuff gets said, and the government comes in and says, this is unacceptable, which is why they do not like multi-level marketing companies. And the extra layer of that is that I believe that for the most part in the network marketing industry, the Canadians and the Americans have gotten too soft. They don't want to go out and grind and work like it really takes to build those companies. When you see companies take off in that space now, they're usually in like Africa, South America, Asia, where people are like grinding.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's too much work. So you got a lot of starting and stopping and building and a lot of moving around and moving teams and moving companies. It's just a really hard industry for both sides of the equation, the distributors and the owners, to have consistent traction. It's a model that I think had its heyday in probably the 70s and 80s. And then it's been on a slow decline ever since.
Yeah, I think once we got to about 2000, I've always come back to the Amazon factor. I don't know when Amazon became when it became the dominant e-commerce player. I don't remember the exact year.
It's about 2010.
Yeah, so around that time, I was saying, listen, there's no hope. You'll never be able to compete with Amazon. And these are all direct-to-consumer products like cosmetics and vitamins and nutrition products and all the things that Amazon sells at deep discounts right now. Even the books, right? Even books. People go to Barnes and Noble. I watch them with their cell phones taking pictures of the books. The book is $24.95 hardcover at Barnes and Noble, and they're getting it for $18.95 on Amazon. I don't know how they're even in business, right? But that's how the distributorships will look. They'll go, okay, well, your vitamin nutrition supplement is $40 a month. When on Amazon, I can get it from a reputable brand that has 500 reviews for half the price. Right. Well, so it's a bad space to be because you don't have the stability of that residual income anymore. It's too much churn and also, by the way, Aaron, too much competition in a saturated space. I get direct selling magazines still to my house from being in that industry, Aaron. How do you like that cool little thumb that popped up?
Oh, I didn't even look at that. Look what I did.
What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Amazon has done, right? They've reduced the price, and the big one that people don't think about, they've absolutely eliminated the shipping.
That's right. With Prime, $99 a year, no shipping.
Right. So these other companies, they've got a product price that's artificially inflated because they're having to pay so many levels in a distributorship. So it's already more expensive. And then they've got to ship it, which they're paying premium shipping prices. And it takes longer because they're not Amazon. So you've got three things working against you. And then you've got the added stigma, that the government doesn't like network marketing. And it's a lot of elements that are pushing back against you in that space, where the flip side is, for example, in a single level affiliate program, I was saying to you earlier today, My wife follows this girl on social media. She's a designer. She's like a home decor designer. And what she does is she buys really nice looking but inexpensive products from Amazon, and she stages rooms in her house. And she has a business where she basically stages rooms in people's houses when they want to sell their house or when they want to redo it or whatever. And so what she does is she shows a before of what it looked like and after, and then she goes through the different products and she talks about their price points and how inexpensive it is. And then in her social media, she's got affiliate links to Amazon, because you can sign up as an affiliate for Amazon tomorrow. Sure. It's free.
Yep.
And then you have your own link for any product that you want. And she has her affiliate links in her social, and she makes a dump truck of money. You know why? Because she's built her own audience. She's got a skill that she's referencing, and then she's got an opportunity for you to go and duplicate what she does by buying through her affiliate link, right? And she makes a ton of money. So affiliate marketing is not going anywhere, and it's not. I don't really see any downside in the affiliate marketing model. But I do see heavy compression coming on the network marketing model. And I have seen it for about 10 years.
But again, only because it goes past one level, right?
Correct.
Every single company I can think of has some sort of an affiliate or referral program.
Correct.
They'd be crazy not to, where you get compensated for referring people. And in my space, in the software space, our affiliates and partners get residual income because we're a monthly subscription model, which means they're getting a piece of every single software membership for the month. Very stable. People get on software, they tend not to get off it if it's good, right?
Correct.
So, we're rolling out a single direct selling. Mine isn't public. Mine's only for my users at this point, as you know, but we're getting ready to roll it out publicly, where you can become a certified SaaS consultant and go to businesses and bring them technology and get paid every month on their usage. That's a real business. Now, I've actually had people ask me, Aaron, what if we had a one-level pay plan where if I am a consultant and I bring in consultants and I override them, I say, I wouldn't do it. You couldn't pay me enough money to go multi-level. I won't even allow my business into the multi-level category, because then I need a whole new wave of FTC compliance attorneys, because as soon as you get into the recruiting and overrides and in the multi-level, you fall into a whole different compliance category. It's very costly to stay ahead of that.
And the tech side of it, managing it, and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, the comp plans are tough to.
And again,
for accounting.
Talking about affiliate programs or referral programs, we just turned on traffic for our agency this month for the first time in 5 years. We built the whole agency off of word of mouth and referrals, where we paid people for referring clients to us. So it's a phenomenal thing to have an affiliate program or referral program. It's just that once you start dipping into those multi-levels, either as a distributor or as an owner, it brings in a lot of complexities that I think, unfortunately, are making it quite challenging for that industry as a whole. But
I don't know how it's still standing. I mean, personally,
it's
in North America. Yeah, I think these companies are just coming and going at this point. So I would say if you're a direct sales professional and you're in a multi-level model, because we have a lot of direct sales professionals. I mean, heck, the insurance industry is a direct sales model where you can build a team, but it doesn't go past one level, right? So you can build a frontline team of insurance agents and override them, very common in the financial planning space, but that doesn't go to level 2 and level 3. That's level 1, meaning I could build a team of 5 guys and 5 gals, and I'm getting a percentage of what they do. I'm training them, but I'm also doing my own production. I think the key takeaway from a selling standpoint, and as a business owner, coming back to the topic of the day, is you've got to be always selling yourself, or you need to have a sales team, and you need to be able to drive your own deals all day, every day, because as soon as you hand it over and rely on affiliates or salespeople or distributors, then you're playing wait and see. It's almost like the referral thing, Aaron, right? You talked about a second ago. If you're only relying on referrals, great. It's if you go back and watch our 3 pillars of lead generation, that's automatic referrals and you being organic and you going out and speaking to people and you letting people know what you do. But knowing how to drive traffic and knowing how to do advertising is key, because then you are always able to drive your own sales. Another example, Aaron, I brought on a professional affiliate management company.
You were telling me about that.
For 90 days. Yeah. They've done next to nothing. Oh. And I go, wow, well, thank God I wasn't relying on a professional affiliate management group to be the beginning and the end of all my sales, like a lot of companies. I know a lot of companies, by the way, in the software space where I am, that they have no marketing, they don't have any advertising, they don't know how to advertise, but they have an army of affiliates, and they're just basically motivating affiliates to make all their sales for them. right? That's not a great place to be. That's a great component of the business model, but that shouldn't be the whole business model, right?
Right.
So these guys are done. We're running circles around them. We have it all in-house, but I thought, let me bring in a team that does this for a living, put them on a retainer percentage of sales, and let them go recruit a whole new wave of affiliates for us.
Yep.
And they barely did anything in the 60 to 90 day mark. And I'm like, guys, I'm not paying you guys. I know all I need to know about someone within 90 days. So if you're not performing as we're approaching 90 days, there's nothing you can tell me for the most part that you're going to be better in the second 90 days.
Well, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about when we started this episode. Is we kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole in the network marketing arena. But
that was big news though on those companies.
It was big news. But what it started with was, in a quarter of stagnation, you have to be looking at every person, every expense, every part of your model, and saying, how do I free up cash flow? How do I make it more efficient? How do I speed things up? There's no time for inefficiency. And that's what those companies decided they needed to do to make that happen. You've decided to do this after 90 days with the company. I'm actually doing it myself, where I'm on top of a bunch of people who are doing a bunch of things, saying, look, you got a week to prove it to me, because I don't have the time right now. I can't be inefficient right now. And that kind of leads us into the last thing we were going to talk about, which is mindset.
Yeah.
Right. It's really, really important in a time like this to not allow fear to creep into your day-to-day thought patterns. And it's really, really normal. I'm going to be the first one to tell you, fear raises its ugly head multiple times a week, in my mind. Maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe I've already peaked. Maybe I wasn't as good as I thought. Maybe this product isn't as good as I think. All these things come in, and it's okay to recognize that it's going to come, but you have to push it back down. And one of the first things you and I always say is make sure that you keep your physical fitness at a really high level, because those endorphins running through your system will offset those other elements much more than anything else. So you got to keep a clear mind. This morning I went for a swim in the ocean.
Did you?
Instantly felt better when I got back.
Nice.
And approached my day with a different level of mindset.
Oh yeah, that must have. Sun and ocean, I couldn't think of anything better.
Sun and ocean, right? Number two, you can't pull the guards inside the walls and wait it out. If you've ever watched when people pull guards inside the walls in old movies, those old like English war movies?
Yeah.
There's only so much time before they run out of food. And then they got to come out, and then they're killed, right? You can't go into full-blown defense mode. You have to combine efficiency with continuing the processes that brought you to the game. You can't just eliminate them and say, well, for example, I'm not spending any more money on marketing, because that is a definitive path to disaster, right? And number three is there's always somebody that's kicking your butt. I actually made a post about it in my social yesterday, Andrew. I said, somebody somewhere is kicking your butt. Study them. There's always somebody that's found an angle or found a product or found a marketing strategy or found a marketing platform or found a sales technique that is thriving in this economy. Your job as a business owner is to research and find those people and figure out what they're doing differently than you, so that you can model them in your own business, because it works. You don't have to invent the wheel. You just have to find the wheel that's rolling. Right? And we're going to talk about it a little bit more in the next episode, 3 to 5 of our favorite spy tools, where you can actually look at exactly what businesses are doing right now, and you can say, ooh, I never thought of that, or they're doing that differently than me, or I need to implement that as well. There's always somebody thriving in any economy. Are you doing the work to figure out what they're doing? And also from a mindset perspective, when I see somebody killing it in my space, I don't get jealous. I don't get angry. I get inspired. I think if somebody else in my space is killing it, where maybe we're a little bit stagnant right now.
Surely you can do it.
Surely I can do it. So what are they doing different than me? So you want to be searching for for social proof that someone in your space is killing it. And then once you found it, model it.
Yep.
Because there's something that's working for them right now in your space.
Yeah. And you don't have to steal it, swipe it, plagiarize it. You model it.
You
right?
model it.
Life is really driven by modeling, right? No, not too many people invented something for the first time. Mostly everybody modeled something from somewhere and adapted it as their own.
Correct.
Right. And I think that creates a lot less friction as well. If you want to go out and recreate yourself, recreate your career, start a business, become a sales professional somewhere, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel all that much, but you do need to put your own specific spin on it, and you do need to make it yours. And we've talked many times about unique selling proposition, right? We have a whole chapter in our new book, Revenue Multipliers, on unique selling proposition. So that's really the lift is, how do I make it unique to me, but not necessarily have to recreate it from scratch? And you're right, those tools that you see every day as a marketing agency owner are tools that you bring to the table for your clients to say, hey, what are some of the best offers out there doing so we can adapt it to your business model, your company, your product line?
Absolutely. And again, I said it earlier, this too shall pass, right? That I think somebody once said, fear is false expectations appearing real.
Yeah.
We will make up the worst case scenario in our head.
Right. It's just human default.
It is. It's almost like a defense mechanism.
It is. It's a fight or flight survival thing that don't ever expect it to go away. All you can do is be aware of it and channel it.
All you can do is aware of a challenge. Maybe even it makes sense in times like this to go search out a professional.
Absolutely. Coaching, consulting, therapy, whatever.
Maybe it's a business consultant. Funny enough, I just hired a business consultant this week. I said to him, hey, there's 6 or 7 areas in my business that are inefficient right now. I want you to come in. I want you to fix them for me because I want to be prepped for January. So that was a business consultant. Maybe it's a mental health professional where you're like, I just got to go out and like dump all this stuff on somebody because I don't want to burden my husband or my wife or my friends or my kid. I need to talk to a professional, right? There's a lot of tools out there that you can tap into that can help you. The tide goes out, the tide comes in. So one of my favorite saying, tide goes out, tide comes in. Never get too high when the highs are high and never get too low when the lows are low, because the world always perpetually moves in a consistent positive direction. But when you zone in on it, there's dips and ups and downs and ups. And if you get too wrapped up in those downs, it can completely derail your mindset.
Absolutely. And I'll leave off with, in the investment world, there's a book called The Fourth Turning. I think it's called The Fourth Turning, right? Okay. Where they say everything goes in cycles. I have another one here from Ray Dalio, The Changing World Order, I'm looking at right now, and The Fourth Turning. Right. These are books that, from an investment standpoint, which we started with, everything tends to go in cycles. Right. And first turning, second turning, third turning, fourth turning. And the fourth turning is when things really sort of get chaotic and break down before they can go back to the first turning, which is when prosperity starts again. And a lot of these really smart historians and authors who've written versions of the fourth turning for the last few decades. The guy's name who wrote it, it's over here somewhere. Here it is. Neil Strauss, I think it is, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Neil Strauss, right? So the fourth turning. I'm seeing the fourth turning being referenced in a lot of financial models right now, and we're in that fourth turning, so they say, right, where things will be chaotic, and you've got to be hyper aware of what's going on, because coming out of it will be the greatest opportunities of all for building businesses and investing, right? So you can easily get stuck in the so-called fourth turning and be really defensive and down.
Yep.
Or you can be down. It's cool. You can be defensive. Great. I like to be pragmatic. I always look at the negative side of things, and I immediately am skeptical of things. That's a smart way that I think everybody should be. And then from there, you can at least go, okay, well, where are the opportunities?
Yep.
Right. Or where will the opportunities be? To my point earlier, I talked about gold, silver, Bitcoin, right? Which those things are shaping up to be tremendous opportunities in chaotic times. So that opportunity is now. What does it mean when the fourth turning flips and it becomes a first turning and things become more prosperous? Not really sure, but those are values of wealth. Those are assets, right? So what assets can you be looking at acquiring? And then what business model can you be looking at going into or creating or adjusting now if you're already in business?
Yeah, my financial advisor always says the stock market is the only business on earth when everything goes on sale, everybody freaks out negatively.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's one of the weirdest psychological phenomenons coming from being a financial advisor for 10 years, early in the 90s and into early 2000s. I'm like, man, people never want to buy when things are down. It's amazing. They just want to chase things. It's so crazy to me.
I looked at the crypto market over the last week, and
Yep.
and it was on a pretty consistent slide for the last 2 weeks. I don't know which element was creating that downward pressure.
Yeah, it dipped below the 60,000 mark for a little while.
Yeah, the whole market was down. And I was thinking to myself, ooh, I'm going to buy a bunch more. And then all of a sudden I looked at it last night and
65,000, boom.
It had surged, right? Yeah. And so when you're looking, again, this kind of goes back to mindset, right? The biggest opportunities are in times of chaos, in times of stagnation, but it's about saying to yourself, I'm not going to go run and hide. I'm not going to play defense. I want to play offense. How do I take advantage of this situation? Because that's when, the lion's share of wealth is made in a lot of different industries, is when you take advantage of bad situations.
Buffett will say it all the time, right? Buffett comes back to it all the time when there's blood in the streets, right? But it isn't just about taking advantage of opportunity. It's also understanding what's going on in the cycle so you can be better prepared for the next one. Because as you said, the ebbs and flows, we're talking today about fourth quarter every 4 years. Fourth quarter every year is a challenge with the holidays and year-end stuff. Mm-hmm. But then it's even more of a challenge to the point of the show today, where you have an election cycle every 4 years, which compounds the already sluggishness of a fourth quarter and holidays and people sort of checking out early. You have that now happening times 2 every 4 years. So really good to be aware of every little facet of what's happening in the investment world, in the business world, in the economic world, not just sitting and waiting and watching and being told what to think by CNN, right? It's digging down and analyzing every aspect of what's going on. So A, you can respond quick, and B, you can be better prepared next time. That's the takeaway here today, if you ask me.
And it's also shifting your mindset from defense to offense. So,
and I think football's a two-headed sport, Aaron, right? It's not one or the other. It's actually both. The key is you don't want to just be playing offense or just be playing defense.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah, right? Is playing defense should always be the case. You always want to be in defense mode, but that doesn't mean you're never striking, right? You're a fighter. You're an ex-fighter. Right. Yep. You knew how to defend yourself, because if you didn't know how to defend yourself, you'd be knocked out quick, but you also knew when to strike. Well, and it was towing that line, right? Always.
If you just back up with your hands up and be on defense the entire time, eventually someone's going to get you. At some point, you've got to get their respect by striking back at them to make them think about what they're doing. And a lot of the things we talked about today, looking at efficiencies, so on and so forth, those are defense mechanisms. But looking for opportunities, I'll end it on this. So one of the conversations that I had yesterday, Andrew, was with a guy who wanted to come and work for me. And he's got his own agency, and he said, everything's been great for 4 or 5 years. I'm just getting killed this year. I've never run my own marketing. It's always been referral based, and I'm just getting killed. And can I come and work for you? And he told me some of the different agencies he's worked for in the past. And one of them, I recognized the name, and I won't call him out on this show. But I said, how is he doing? And he said, the last time I talked to him was a month ago, and he's the only one that I know that, at least he told me, he's still growing this year. And I said, that's very interesting. What do you think I did? Mental note, wrote his name down, put it in my to-dos, going to go and tap him into all my spy tools, which we're going to go into next week.
Find out what he's up to.
I'm going to know exactly what he's doing, and I'm going to emulate whatever I'm not doing that he's currently doing that's giving him that unique aspect to his business. That's making sure that you're still playing offense while you're playing defense.
Versus you hearing what he's doing and going, wow, great for him. I really need to start shutting some operations down and being careful here and playing.
I'm just going to wait till
and
January.
Then never looking into him.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know how he's able to be growing in a stagnation period so that I can layer that on top of what I'm doing and give myself the best chance for success.
And all it takes is pulling one idea, one nugget from a couple different business models, which we'll talk about next time on Spy Tools. Again, thanks to AI and thanks to some fancy tech, there is not a whole lot of digging that has to happen. It's just, are you willing to look a little deeper than most? And by the way, today, Aaron, last thing I'll leave off with, one of the things that I've noticed over the last 4 years is that very few people today are truly curious. It's really puzzling to me. They really won't go deep. They won't look at alternative sources. They won't do the research. They won't read the books. They won't dig down deep and find out why something is and look at all sides of it, like it or hate it. Man, I might go in there and really hate what I see. I might go in there and love what I see, but I'm afraid to go in there because I might hate what I see. And, the old adage, which I think is the greatest fraud of all, is what you don't know won't hurt you. I actually think it's the exact opposite. What you don't know will kill you.
I agree.
Yeah, what you don't know will kill you. So you got to be willing to go deep, especially today, because there's so much information coming at us and there's so much turmoil coming at us. So with a combination of information and turmoil coming at you, you've got to be really hyper aware. You've got to protect your mind, to your point earlier, keeping yourself in really good condition. And you've got to be willing to study what's going on so that you can react quick enough to not fall behind.
Absolutely.
I'm going to leave with that. I'm going to wrap it there. I'm looking forward to your next episode on your spy tools, which you showed me one yesterday. You were like a kid in a candy shop. It was great.
I love this stuff.
We got to get on a Zoom. I got to show you the spy. Cool. We'll save it for the next episode. I'm Andrew. That's Aaron. This one's a wrap.